I think this game showed you that Mamelodi Sundowns are deserved Champions League grootmanne. I think those guys just showed that they're a cut above everybody else when it comes to the Champions League. You know, a lot of teams know that when you play away, you're going to defend. Very hard to score. Sundowns does it within 5 minutes. Most teams know that, okay, once we've got the 1-1, we're going to make it difficult for the other team. Sundowns goes and scores 2 more goals. Lupopo at some point tried to be more physical, more dark artsy. They tried to take Sundowns off of their rocker, and Sundowns said no. In fact, they showed them that no, we know this game. And I'm talking here about Grand Kekana getting pushed and falling. Hey, they fell so dramatically. Because if you remember the Pirates game, when Lupopo did this, Pirates got in their feelings. Sundowns didn't get in their feelings. And they showed why they are such a great team. Now, when we get into the actual game, this wasn't the cleanest of Sundowns games. I think the first half, they were out of balance, in Mamelodi Sundowns. And when I say out of balance, there were a couple of problems that they were having that were creeping up, right? Now, we know about Aubrey on the left-hand side. We often speak about how sometimes he might be a defensive liability. But that left-hand side, having him as a pure left back, not allowing him to come inside, I think causes some problems up the line because Aubrey still demands the ball. But when he gets it up there, there aren't really many options around him, especially since it seemed as though Nuno Santo was going to be the guy who was meant to be playing almost that Zwane role, half wing, 10, you know. So Aubrey found himself lost a lot of times up the wing with not having an option to play. On the other side, you have Mudau, who was pretty much doing what Mudau normally does. Mudau really struggles in the final third to play that ball. So when you want the cross or the ball inside, it's very hard for him. He usually gets up there, turns around, and plays a back pass. So effectiveness in terms of him being up there isn't quite up there. That's why sometimes you see Sundowns, and sometimes you've seen Hugo Bruce play play Mudau and Morena on that one side, almost to cover each other's sins. This one defends very well, but is not very effective in the final third. This one is great in the final third, but maybe doesn't defend well. So we saw some of that creep up. You saw some of the confusion in terms of the midfield and the front players. I don't think Reyners is a good central player. He's not a good striker when he has to run central spaces. He's great coming off of the sides. And it was very shocking to see him taking up the central spaces with Matthews and Santos almost going wide. And that is why I think he wasn't effective in this game. And even the goal, the first one, came from him pinning the defense. I'll give him credit. Pinning the defense to allow Nuno Santo to run past him to score. And wonderful ball there by Resinho, right? So there was a bit of balance issues there with Mamelodi Sundowns. And when they got to the final third, it didn't seem like they knew where they wanted to play or where the goal was going to come from, right? It's very interesting because they chose to go very wide, like I said, Mudau and Mudiba. But the moment they started playing inside, I said in my live stream that if you can come inside, the Lupopo defense are guys that are jumpy. They're panicky. They want to run at everything. If you watch that Pirates game, you could see that when Pirates started playing that ball right in front of them in some cases, they were losing position very, very easily because they're not used to playing that type of football. And I think low block is not just low block because you've got numbers. You have to have structure. And I don't think Lupopo has that structure in them as it stands now. What's interesting about Lupopo is that the question was going to be how were they going to approach this game. And I think what they tried to do very early on was to play that low block. I mean, teams that come into South Africa a lot of the time know that you don't want to be outplayed and concede 6 or 7 goals or whatever, especially in the group stages, especially when it's points on the line, especially when there's goal differences and heads-to-heads that you have to look out for. So they came in and they were very compact. I was looking at Molia, number 23. I thought he was going to be the danger man because he ended up being the danger man a lot against Pirates. But even him, you could tell that he was told, go back. He was sitting closer to the left back. Sit back, guys. Try and absorb as much as you can from Sundowns. But the one thing about Lupopo, and I said this even in the previous episodes of the podcast I've done, where I said these guys only need a look at goal. They only need a look at goal. They only need 1 or 2 chances. Even against Pirates, say what you may. Not only did they score 3 goals at home, with Pirates, but they had a lot of clear-cut chances. And you know, the Sundowns defense, the moment you put them under pressure, you can get something. And they were able to pull that 1 goal back. I guess you question the defense because obviously Mudiba's marking his man, there's a run that's being made, Cupido's gone to cover, but Mudau and Kekana, that communication was not on because Kekana was marking the guy at the top of the box instead of maybe running a little bit deeper, and Mudau was never going to catch the man he was chasing, and that is how that goal is scored. Now, Mamelodi Sundowns, I think, make some changes to the way that they approach the game. Obviously, the second goal, incredible second goal, nice turn and shoot there, but they make the changes, and this is where I always give Sales credit. Sales comes in, and I think he gave them that extra touch, the extra wall pass, the extra through pass, the extra confidence to play the ball centrally, and you started seeing them carving that Lupopo defense up a little bit, right? Unfortunately, at the time afterwards, Borreinas came off and all of that, but just that confidence to play inside the box. Sales, of course, providing that cross for the 3rd goal, but you see how important he is in linking. And I'd love to see that Santos Sales with the 2 wide and see how that plays. I think that would be great because he gives them a central presence. Even Allende and those guys started coming alive. They stopped going too wide in the way that they were playing. And I think they look great in that second half. My favorite moment still was Tebza Bamukapa. He falls down. Grant gets pushed. He exaggerates. And that just shows you that sometimes, as part of the game, you need to adapt and know that, okay, we need to also be able to do these things. And that is where I again say the maturity of Sundowns is so high. The maturity of Sundowns to understand those things and understand the dark arts and understand going down a little bit more, understand wasting time. I saw towards the end. And while a lot of people are going to frown at that, that is how African football is played. And it's part of the ego that you have to put aside in order to win games, which is something that Mamelodi Sundowns has done so well. Mamelodi Sundowns has done so well. Now, they still have the errors. Like I said, Mamelodi Sundowns has had a long-standing problem when it comes to the left back and it comes to the relationship between the left back and the left centre back. I think Cupido is going to be put under a lot of pressure this season, and there's probably going to be teams that are going to take advantage of that, right? I think they need to get their midfield play proper. So that you can still fit in Boresinho, you can still fit in Bonuno while still going forward. I think they got trapped going wide quite a bit, and they were looking for that dinked ball. There was this ball that they kept trying over. I think Sailor needs to get a little bit more confidence in the final third. You know, put that ball in. If you find yourself with a little bit of space, there was a point where he ran in, and I think he took a second too long thinking before trying to cross. The one time he crosses, a goal is scored because it allowed the ball to move into the central areas where they could now knock it around and move that Lupopo defense around. So I'm looking for Sailor to get a little bit better at that. He normally crosses the ball only when he's in trouble. But if he can just develop that thing of finding that ball or playing that ball, it doesn't matter if the defense gets to it or whatever. He must just keep doing that because that's where the chances are going to come from. And the back passes are not necessarily helping. Santos needs to find out what position he's playing. I know he scored 2 goals, I believe, in this game, but they need to figure out where he fits in. Because I would have loved to see him in that central 10, which is very interesting because before Recinho, Nuno Santo was the one who was playing those balls. Now he's moved up and Recinho's come in, and now he's lost because he's playing almost as a 4th striker, waiting for the ball at the end instead of being able to come in and fetch the ball. Again, that's where Sales, I think, where Sales shine very bright today was in the central spaces, in the 10, being able to just get that ball and make them tick. It's not going to be a Lucas Ribeiro Costa, but it's going to be something that allows Sundowns to attack centrally, and maybe that allows Aborinas the space that they normally have coming in from the sides instead of having them waiting for the ball centrally and not being able to move around. So that is something that maybe Mamelodi Sundowns is going to have to look at. Cardoso shows again that he knows this tournament, he knows this football, he understands it, because there's another result that happened last night where MC Alger lost 2-1 to Al Hilal. Every point you can get matters, and Sundowns has proved year in, year out to be able to get this, and again are the grootmanne of this game. I'll say it one more time. St. Eloi Lupopo, I think there will be a problem at home. I think at home, that's going to be an interesting game to play versus St. Eloi Lupopo for any of the teams, because I think they've got all the right qualities. You know, the number 10 that they have, the guy who wears number 10, number 10 that they have, number 23, the way that they can be problems for defenses physically. We saw it when Pirates played them. I think that's going to help them a lot, especially if they do decide to attack full on. But that defense needs to learn structure. They need to learn patience, because the moment there's a little bit of movement, they are all over the place. There's plenty of places where Mamelodi Sundowns players were running in behind. Mamelodi Sundowns players were getting chances. You saw the header that Matthews hit off of the crossbar. That's just situational awareness, talking to each other, knowing where everybody's meant to be. They don't quite have that. And Lebon, they're going to meet some teams. That 3-1 is going to be a very lucky score to leave that game with. Even this one, maybe Mamelodi Sundowns should have maybe left with 4 or 5 goals here. But in any case, great first game for Mamelodi Sundowns in the CAF Champions League. Hopefully they continue on this form that they have, and we'd love to see them winning the group again and going to another final and representing South Africa. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and do all of those really nice things to help this channel grow. And if you can contribute, there's an account number there in the description. It really helps with keeping all of this up. It really helps with growing the channel and doing a lot more, as always. And if you can't contribute, if you see anything that is branding anywhere in my stuff, like, comment, share, do all of those nice things so that I can also sell this to brands and be like, guys, look at how engaged my audience is for these things. Guys, it's been great. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, everyone.